to the Fit and Fabulous podcast with Dr. Jaime Semen. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Jaime, and welcome back to the Fit and Fabulous podcast. It is so wonderful to have you here today. Today, we are talking about skin. We are talking about anti-aging. We're talking about how to be fabulous. You know, my brand is Fit and Fabulous, and we are going to give you everything you need to know about making your skin fabulous. So I would like to introduce you to today's guest, Carolina Oliveira. She is going to say her name way sexier than I will with her amazing accent. But she is the CEO and co-founder of OneSkin. She holds a PhD in stem cell biology and tissue engineering from the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil in collaboration with Rutgers. She is the co-inventor of 5 patents, co-author of numerous scientific publications. She relocated from Brazil to Silicon Valley in 2016 to found OneSkin, a fast-growing longevity company developing products to promote skin age reversal by targeting a central driver of aging. Carolina and her team of aging and skin biology experts are disrupting the anti-aging skincare industry with their groundbreaking research around skin and longevity. Carolina, welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Jaime. So happy to be here today.
Well, one thing that got me real excited is when you go to the OneSkin website, it's all women. It's all these like really smart, powerful, beautiful women. So I have to give you kudos to that. And for our listeners, Carolina, you have an interesting story. You're not even in the US. You came from Brazil. Tell us about your background and your passion and what kind of drove you down this journey in life.
Yes. So I'm a scientist by training, as are my co-founders. We are total 4 PhDs that co-founded OneSkin. And I was always interested in science since I was maybe like a kid, because I like to understand how things work, and I like to understand how things work in the human biology. So I got really interested in going really down to the molecular level, because that's where everything happens. And if we're able to understand how our cells and our tissues work, we see when they stop working, and that's when we start developing diseases and start, going down that path of aging. So I really was driven to use this scientific knowledge to create something that could help people live better, healthier. So I was studying stem cell biology and tissue engineering during my PhD. And it's very interesting, this area of research, because with stem cells, we can basically recreate any type of cells of our body. We can recreate tissues, and we can use those tissues to mimic our own biology in a petri dish in the lab. And then we can basically, create experiments and simulate conditions. So one of the things that we initially were really interested was we were growing human skins in the lab. So we always started out like growing tissues in the lab, specifically skin models, in order to test products that were already available to measure or to understand if they were actually doing what they're supposed to do. So we were really interested in this anti-aging market. We knew that we could grow tissues, we could grow skins. If we're able to measure the age of the skin that we were growing, we could then test a product and validate if that product was changing the age of the skin. And it was very interesting, because really fast what we found out that most products, they don't change the age of the skin, and some can actually accelerate the age of the skin.
Oh, you're going to tell us which products those are, right?
And it's so interesting, because they are supposed to be anti-aging, and when we looked at the genes that are related to aging and inflammation, all the genes, they were going up. And we thought, okay, this is not how they is supposed to work. So by knowing also about the science of aging and longevity, we realized that scientists are now understand much better what's driving aging at the cellular level. And when we looked at the products that were available in the market, most of them were not targeting aging. So they were designed to make your skin to look good, to look, fresher, but not necessarily they were going, after what's driving aging at the cellular level. So very fast we saw that there was a better approach to actually address this problem that was going to the root cause. And I'm not going to give everything away, but when we saw that there was an opportunity to do something about aging, and when we start connecting the dots that aging drives most of the diseases that we develop as we grow older, and as a scientist, this was my purpose, trying to help people to age better, healthier. I decided that's where I want to invest my time, and I joined with these colleagues to really focus on understanding the biology of aging and help our tissues to function better for longer, so we can enjoy our lives, while we are here without putting limits on ourselves. So that's basically what led us to start One Skin, and we can talk more about how the technology works.
Absolutely. Well, I know the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry for sure. And I think every woman listening has always been looking for the fountain of youth. Um, I'm a doctor, so I sit in a clinic and I see patients. And one thing that is always difficult as a doctor is we have basic science researchers, PhDs, who are doing basic science, and they may come up with the most amazing discovery, but then we have to figure out how that translates into me standing in front of a patient. So I call it basic science, and then I call it, practicing medicine.
Mhm.
And for you, this is so different than other people in the, skincare industry. There's a difference between, you know, lab research. You're talking about literally growing. Is this human skin that you culture and
Human
grow?
skin, yes, we only work
Okay.
with human tissues. Yeah.
So you're literally growing the skin, right? Instead of, but then we translate that into clinical research. How does it actually work in real human subjects? Can you talk about just the beauty industry in general? You said that there are some products that are not good. They maybe even accelerate aging of the skin. Can you help people kind of understand that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So as you were saying, like the beauty of being able to do this basic research, that in some ways is a research that can be applicable really fast, right? So I think my interest in for this kind of research is because I want to make sure that research would be translated into something that people could actually benefit from. So when we start like growing skin, and then we can test any product out there, and we can test a given ingredient, and we can see what's going on in terms of the skin organization and also in the gene expression. So for example, if a product is not good for skin, if it has like toxic ingredients, we know that nowadays we are much more aware of like safe and clean products. Clean can be still a little harder to distinguish, but I call it safe because these are products that are not causing any harm on your skin. But in the past, a lot of the products that we were putting in our bodies, they were not actually safe, right? So a lot of them had ingredients, even that can contain hormonal disruptors and things that are really
Mm-hmm.
bad for our health. But other toxic ingredients, like some really harsh preservatives, that when we apply those products in the skin basically starts to degenerate. So we see the cells changing the morphology. We see genes again related to inflammation going up. So we can clearly see, okay, that's not a good product for skin. This product's causing more damage than good. So it's better not to use anything than use these products. I'm not gonna like share names, but I'm gonna share that some really expensive, classic anti-aging from like the old school industry are some of those products that are causing harm. And for the consumer, I know that's hard, but one way that we advise people, and it really correlates well with our results, is to check the ingredient lists and go to sites like EWG, if you know the Environmental World Group, that help you to rank the ingredients. And if you see that those ingredients like on yellow or red, like they're questionable, you should try to avoid some of those ingredients. And we see that products that are full of those ingredients, they will definitely not perform well in our studies. So we can see these products not doing well for the skin. Another interesting ingredient that we test, and initially was a surprise, but it also makes sense, it's retinol or retinoids in general. Um, Retinoids, we know that it induces like cell renewal. So you're basically, in some ways, burning the upper layers of your skin and inducing, the basal layers to replenish those skin. So you are inducing this your skin to grow and create like a fresher skin, not necessarily a newer skin, but a fresher skin. But when we tested the skins with retinol, we saw that the inflammation was really going high and aging markers was going high too. So what we understood from this process is that retinol works by causing some kind of damage in the skin and induce your skin to repair, like to basically replace those cells that are being removed. So if you use retinol and then you stop and you give your skin time to recover, and if you combine retinol with another product that also helps, alleviate some of those harsh effects, it can be positive. But if you overuse retinol, you can exhaust your tissue because you are inducing your stem cells to replenish the cells that are being recycled. And if you do this over and over, you can exhaust your tissue. So it was interesting to find, wow, retinol is like the main anti-aging product, and it's actually
Yeah.
inducing some genes related to aging. But so we always get this question, and people ask, like, should I stop for real? I say, if you like retinol, you can definitely alternate it, use like 2 or 3 times a week. But I would not overuse it. And I think the industry is pushing too much of like, exfoliation and peeling. And eventually you can be
Yeah.
sacrificing your skin health in the long term. So the way
Yeah.
that
I was like,
yeah.
I was about to put my tail between my legs because I use a prescription retinoid and because I've had some issues with acne, but I'm very sensitive to it. I only use it once a week.
That's good
So,
for you. Yeah,
okay.
exactly. I also had acne, and I used to use retinol for years for acne first, and then for its anti-aging effects. And it was only when I started seeing the data in the lab that I was like, "Oh, that's not what
Uh-oh.
I was expecting." So, and then I basically stopped, but from now and then I use a little bit, maybe around your eyes, but not as I was peeling all the time. I thought that, like,
Yeah.
peeling was a sign that, I'm getting younger.
Yeah.
And that's not how it's supposed to be. Your skin, it's time to recover, mainly because when you're inducing that renew, you are basically exposing your skin. You are compromising your skin barrier, right? Because the skin barrier is that upper layer, that's forms the stratum corneum. That's a layer of keratin, but that's really important to protect your skin against like external stressors, pathogens, and so on. That's why we get more sensitive with sunlight. And if you overuse, again, your skin is exposed all the time. So you should definitely give time so your skin recovers. Ideally, complements or combines with a cream that can soothe and calm your skin, so you get the benefits of both.
Okay. All right. You guys heard it right there. Don't overuse the retinols and retinoids. And they're in a lot of products too. Um, can you talk about, you'd mentioned a little bit about these tissue cultures and like testing the genes and the aging. Is how does our skin, how do you measure that? How do you measure skin age?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are many what we call markers or biomarkers of aging. We can measure gene levels, so the activity of some genes that are associated with aging. We can measure some genes that are associated with a younger skin, for example, more collagen, more hyaluronic acid. But one very interesting way that we can quantify what we call the biological age of the skin is basically measuring the epigenetic profile. So the epigenetic profile tell us which genes are active and which genes are suppressed, and this changes throughout our aging process. And we know that because when we are old, we still have the same genes that we are young, but we have different genes turned on and off. So by reading the DNA, or basically this epigenetic profile, we can tell if a skin is 40 years old, is 45 years old. And if I take a biopsy of your skin and I can measure, your skin can be younger or older than your chronological age. That's what we call like biological age. And this is related to your lifestyle, how much sun exposure you had, and if you smoke or not. So this will influence a lot your biological age. So we can measure this in the lab and we can compare. And then we can treat that skin with like different products and find products or find ingredients that can actually reverse the age, the biological age of the skin. So we know that aging is a malleable process. We know that it's reversible. We have done this in the lab many, many times. Now, what companies like OneSkin and other longevity companies are doing is basically bring these products to people that can actually reverse the age of the skin in a safe and effective way. And in order to do that, you need to understand what is the best target, where we should focus to actually promote this age reversal effect. And that's where we have our proprietary technology, and we found our peptide that targets one of the main drivers of skin aging.
Wow. So I don't know if you follow TMZ. That's where I get all my social gossip, but they'll do this thing where they put a celebrity up and it says good genes or good docs. Right? Like, is it plastic surgery, or are they
Yes.
just a genetic goddess, right? But so, and this is, research has shown that about 20 to 30% of our longevity is influenced by our genetics. So certainly it's good to have those genes, but the other 70 to 80% really is related to how we live. And that is, of course, what I preach to my followers all the time, that lifestyle, what we eat, how we sleep, how we move, is there maybe like one or two or three things that come to the top of your mind when it comes to the aging of our skin that people are doing, lifestyle, not a product like OneSkin, but like, what are kind of the big hitters that age our skin that people are doing a lot of?
Well, the most basic one, obviously, sun exposure. It drives like 90% of the aging process in your skin. Second one, I would say sugar intake. Sugar can cause inflammation and can also induce what we call the AGEs, so advanced
glycation end products.
Exactly. And this will basically make your collagen more stiff, like your skin will lose like the elasticity, your collagen will be cross-linked, and this definitely leads to the signs of aging, sagging, and loss of firmness, and wrinkles, fine lines. And third, I think actually I have two more that are very important that affects your skin. One is hydration, and the other one is sleep. So
do you mean internal hydration, like drinking water, or like topical hydration?
I would say both. But if we're talking about lifestyle, not products, internal hydration, because definitely the levels of hydration in our body influence our skin. And also, if obviously we stay too much in the sun and we feel dehydrated, we're going to feel in our body, right? So I think that this is a very important takeaway, is that people don't, I mean, obviously we know that our body influences our skin, but do we also know that our skin influences our body? I don't know if people are very aware of that. And that's one of the things that we study at One Skin, that your skin aging can actually elevate your body's levels of inflammation, because your
Mm,
skin is your largest organ. And as it accumulates damage, and those damaged cells, they start secreting inflammation, and this can actually impact your body's levels of inflammation, which is associated with like chronic diseases. So treating
interesting.
your skin as a whole, not on your face, because people tend to look only, on your face. It's really important if you want to achieve longevity as a whole. So we actually have clinical studies working on that. We just finished actually, so happy to discuss more of that as well.
That's fascinating. Okay, tell us what is cellular senescence.
So cellular senescence or senescent cells are cells that are the end of their life. So they have divided around 50 times, they have accumulated so much damage that they shouldn't divide anymore, otherwise they could become like a cancer because they're already super mutated. So they stop dividing, and this is good. We are protecting our bodies. When we are young, our immune system can recognize those senescent cells and clear them out, so they don't bother the cells around. When we start to get old, our immune system gets deficient, so those cells start to build up in our tissues. And as they build up, they secrete inflammatory signals that basically function like a bad apple in a bunch. So the senescent cells start to spoil the good cells around it to age faster. And the accumulation of senescent cells in different tissues has been associated with several chronic diseases. So we accumulate senescent cells in our skin, we accumulate in our hearts, we accumulate in our joints. And what scientists found that was really breakthrough is that if we can specifically eliminate those senescent cells or clear them out of our tissues, we basically can allow the healthy cells to proliferate again. So it's basically targeting what's driving aging and bringing your tissue to a younger state. So your tissue will function normally again. Because if the healthy cells are close to senescent cells, they won't function well, they won't produce collagen, they will start like actually degrading more collagen. So we needed to get rid, or at least we need to prevent the formation of newer senescent cells so our body can do its job well. So that's what senescent cells are, and that's what actually our peptide targets in terms of we test like over different, sorry, need some water. we we tested over nearly 1,000 peptides in order to find the one that was actually able to reduce the amount of senescent cells in the skin. And after 4 years of research, we developed OS1. That's the main peptide in our products. And OS1 has the ability to decrease up to 50% the number of senescent cells in the skin. And by doing that, we can show that we activate collagen production again, we activate hyaluronic acid production, we decrease the genes that are related to aging and inflammation. And in the end, you have like a skin that looks like younger skin, but also functions like younger skin.
Yeah, our skin, it's an organ, right? It's like it's not just this it's not just like a
Yeah,
piece of leather that just
exactly.
wraps our bodies. So the cellular senescence, I've seen people refer to these these senescent cells as zombie cells. I'm not sure the origin of where that came from, but I think it's a great,
Yeah, it's a great analogy because
picture.
basically I usually say they are kind of half dead, half life. life. They don't function well, but they don't go away. They should die, but they don't die, and they start secreting bad vibes. So that's why you call them
Yeah.
zombies. Like they disturb the good cells. So it's a good analogy. I like that one too.
Yeah, I like that. So, how do you? I've seen you talk in your research about this molecular age of the skin. How is this measured? Is this something only a PhD would understand? But, like for instance, could I get the molecular age of my skin tested?
uh, there is you could, but right now we are basically the only company that's measuring the biological age of the skin, and in order to do that we need a biopsy. So we either get a biopsy. Most people don't want to get a biopsy on their face, so
Not here, but maybe I don't know.
yeah, exactly. So we are actually running a really interesting clinical study that we want to measure this age reversal in humans. So in order to do it, we are collecting biopsies from the outer arm because it's an area that's exposed to sun, and it's obviously easier to get a biopsy from. So we have patients using our products for 6 months because changing the age of the skin is not something that you achieve overnight, and we are not the company that's going to promise you, oh, we're going to see results in
One
in
week.
1 week. Exactly. We know that it takes time, so we are giving 6 months up to a year. We actually did a small pilot up to a year, but we believe that we can get results in 6 months. And then we are collecting these biopsies before and after, and we are measuring this age reversal. So in order to do that, we needed to isolate the DNA of the skin, and we do like a sequencing process, and then we run this data in an algorithm that we developed. It's called the Mo clock. And what Mo clock does is basically measuring those epigenetic profiles and telling us the age of the skin, how old is your skin compared to when you were not using the product. So it's a hard test to offer to consumers because it's not very, I'd say, easy to do, collecting
Right.
biopsies and shipping live tissues. But we are running this clinical study so we can actually show to people and our customers that we have data that this is possible in humans.
Okay, so when you did this research, you said you tested thousands of peptides. Can you, for somebody that doesn't understand what a peptide is, can you explain that?
Definitely. So a peptide is a building a building block of a protein. It's basically a sequence of amino acids, and our peptide, for example, it's a small peptide with like 10 amino acids only. And the size of a peptide is really important because it needs to penetrate the skin to actually work, right? You want to make sure that the peptide gets to the dermal layer, the layer that produces collagen, that gives like the firmness of the skin. So when that peptide enters in the cells, it can actually activate different, I'd say, pathways or genes. So this peptide has a biological function. It can induce your cell to behave in one or another way. In this case, we found that this peptide can improve like DNA repair pathways. So our cells are more efficient in repairing damage so they don't become senescent. And then by reducing the amount of those senescent cells, we allow our own tissues to get rid of the senescent cells that were already there. And then we can see that we can actually reduce the number of senescent cells. So basically, peptides are, these biological molecules that can induce our cells to function in different ways. In our case, like be more efficient in repairing DNA damage.
So our bodies make peptides. Like, for instance, insulin is a peptide that
Mhm.
everybody has probably
Yeah.
heard of. Is this particular peptide something that our body makes naturally, or is this something that really smart PhD scientists have created by chaining these amino acids together?
Yes, so this one specifically, it's not found in our body. It does have 70% homology with other proteins in our body or other peptides. But the way that we discovered, we initially started testing antimicrobial peptides. So we tested like around 200. And then from these initial peptides, they were good, but they were not like super potent. So we start making modifications on the amino acids using an algorithm again. But then we generated like from four uh, peptides, we generated like 800 peptide basically, just changing like different amino acids because there are so many combinations that we can create. And then from the second testing, we landed in OS1. So because of that, OS1 is pretty unique. But also because it's a novel peptide, we have done many safety studies to validate that the peptide doesn't cause any toxicity, doesn't cause any mutagenesis. We have a paper validating its safety. We have done long-term studies. So it's novel, but it's not exactly produced in our body, but it's completely safe.
Okay. So this OS1 peptide helps get rid of cellular senescence, essentially knocking out these senescent cells. So let's talk about other things in our skin that when we pick up a product at the store, it says that it helps like induce collagen formation. How does OS1 help increase collagen?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, the way that OS1 helps collagen is really simple. Our cells, the healthy cells, the young cells, they already produce collagen. So we OS1, by reducing the number of those aged cells, senescent cells, it allows the healthy cells to proliferate. So with more healthy cells, they will produce more collagen. It's not that we are giving collagen to the skin or we are uh, activating one specific pathway to induce collagen. It's just allowing the cells to
Yeah.
replicate and produce more collagen.
To do get the zombies out of their way so they can do their
Yeah, and
job.
do what they do
Yeah.
best, as
Yeah.
long as no zombie cells are around.
One thing I see in tons of cosmetic products that I've looked at to put on my face is hyaluronic acid. What is that? And I mean, our body produces hyaluronic acid, right? Just like collagen. How
Yes.
does OS1 help with hyaluronic acid in the same way as collagen?
In the same way, yeah. So all of those, so collagen, hyaluronic acid, elastin, they are part of what we call extracellular matrix. So it's basically they form like fibers that sustain like the cells and sustain the tissues. So if you look on a histology session of the skin, we're gonna see very few cells in the dermal layer, but everything else is full of this extracellular matrix. That's basically those either proteins or hyaluronic acid that gives this substance, this firmness to the skin. So the way that OS1 works again is allowing the healthy cells to produce more hyaluronic acid and also preventing the degradation of hyaluronic acid. So we have proteins that are called proteinases that they chop like collagen, they chop like hyaluronic acid,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what leads also to sagging, wrinkles, and we need to suppress those, and we need to activate the production of these molecules.
It's like zombies running around with scissors,
Yeah, always.
just chopping everything. So, in the studies, this OS1 peptide increased epidermal thickness. I think it was 28%. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, we have the dermis, which is like the bottom layer of skin, and then the epidermis. So, medical terminology, that means it's on top of the dermis. So, it increased the thickness of the epidermal skin. What's the difference between thick skin and thin skin? Why is that better?
Yeah, great question. So a thick skin or a thicker epidermal layer will basically translate into a stronger skin barrier. So a thicker skin is basically more resilient to manage to address the environmental stressors. When your skin is too thin, the chances that first, like you get some of those aggressors penetrating the skin is high. Second means that you are probably losing collagen, hyaluronic acid, because your dermal layer is also in some ways like shrinking. So you needed to keep both. You needed to keep like the epidermal layer thicker and with like a stronger stratum corneum that protects like that means like a stronger skin barrier. And you also need a very strong dermal layer with collagen to maintain the firmness of the skin, your skin more supple. And that's in the end means that your skin is healthier and it's more resilient against those environmental stressors.
Yeah, solid foundation and good armor, right? So we talked about hyaluronic acid a little bit, and it's used as a topical agent in things because hyaluronic acid attracts water, so it creates like that plumpness of the skin. First question is, does topical hyaluronic acid really help in what you've seen in your research? And then what's the difference between hydrating and moisturizing? Are those things interchangeable, or are they completely different when it comes to skin health?
Okay, so hyaluronic acid, we have different molecular weights, and this influences a lot the kind of results that the kind of benefits that the hyaluronic acid can offer. If it's a super high molecular weight, means that it won't penetrate in the skin, will form like basically a physical barrier that will retain water or prevent water loss. In our case, for example, we have not only high molecular weight, but we have micro and nano molecular weight, meaning that when you have really small size of hyaluronic acid, they can actually penetrate the skin and they can activate the skin to produce more hyaluronic acid. So in the end, you should look for both. You should look for both the prevention of water loss and also the activation of your own production. On the question about hydration and moisturizing, I'll be honest that I don't know if I know the best definition for the in terms of like the difference. I'm assuming hydration is something that is coming from inside the skin.
Seems more internal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And moisturizer, you are bringing some moisture into your
Yeah.
skin. So it's basically what I just said, that, if it's coming from your skin, you are hydrating, obviously internally as you drink water, but as your skin cells produce hyaluronic acid, and moisturize would be that physical layer on the top.
Yeah, because it's like a two-way street. We drink water to hydrate, but then we have water losses from the skin, especially as
Yeah.
they, lose that barrier. Like today in Nebraska, you guys, it's like 10,000 degrees outside. So it's very hot. Our skin functions as an organ like that. It sweats to try to evaporate it, to try to cool you off. So, what about when I go to the med spa and I'm talking about any particular treatment? I hear them all the time talking about this induces collagen and elastin,
Mhm.
stimulates the fibroblasts to make collagen. But some treatments don't target hyperpigmentation, like sunspots, that we get. And I know for like my pregnant patients that develop conditions like melasma, hyperpigmentation is definitely a problem for some women on their face. Does OS1 have any target with melanin or hyperpigmentation?
Yes, we actually have a very interesting data comparing OS1 and some key ingredients in other products, or at least ingredients that are really used for hyperpigmentation, like um, kojic acid and even retinoic acid. And comparing with those two, OS1 actually performed better in basically controlling the melanin production in the skin cells. So when your cells are in this state of like damage and inflammation, they will dysregulate the melanin production. So that's why you start seeing more melanin deposition than you should. So OS1 basically, I would say, cleans up the environment of the cells so they can basically go back to that normal production of melanin again. So a lot of people see a better tone, a more even tone using OS1. We have not investigated too deep, but we do have this very specific data around melanin deposition that's very interesting, mainly if we compare with those other ingredients. But if the cause of those that hyperpigmentation comes from hormones, then there is only so much that we can help, because then we probably wouldn't be able to completely uh, uh, solve this, this
Target it.
situation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different
exactly. Yeah,
pathway,
exactly.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, there can be multiple pathways to the same problem. Well, we know hormones are good for the skin. Estrogen, women have more estrogen. We have lots of estrogen. And as we lose our estrogen with menopause, senescent zombie cells come out to play. For sure. So when I look at other products, peptides, I see that on other products. It says whatever. The manufacturers are smart, right, with marketing to women, and they use words like peptides. As I've kind of dived into the anti-aging and longevity space, I've dabbled with lots of different peptides, not just for skin, but other things that target gut healing or immunity, because we get these senescent cells everywhere, in our other organ systems. One that I've come across is GHK copper. Are there other peptides besides OS1, which is obviously amazing, that look beneficial in the skincare lines, or is this just gimmicky marketing?
Yeah, so the main challenge with other peptides, and unfortunately, we are not able to test many of them. It's a very, I'd say, expensive experiment. Is the penetration. A lot of times, if the peptide it's in a larger size, or depending on the charts, like, it will be really hard to penetrate into the deeper layers of the skin. So when you have too many peptides and kind of crazy sizes, we already suspect that they won't be effective, because they are not even, unless you are using like some kind of micro needling, something that can make some holes in the skin and actually help the penetration of the peptide. With the GHK copper, we have tested that one compared with OS1. I believe that it did have some benefits, was not, definitely didn't target senescent cells, but if I'm not mistaken, I need to check with my co-founder and CSO. I think it helped with collagen production as well. But we have not tested the penetration. That one is a small one, so it could be that penetrates the skin.
Yeah.
But we know that's largely used, and people asked us, so that's why we decided to test it. But I can get back to you on the data, because I know that we have this data. So,
Yeah, I
but
don't
definitely,
expect you to memorize thousands of peptides, but that's one I'm seeing a lot of. And I've
yeah,
personally, tried that one too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you like it?
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been dabbling in it for maybe like a year or two now. And then I really got into it because my followers know this. I got COVID and then salmonella poisoning and had horrible hair loss. And so I was like looking at every peptide,
Mm-hmm.
stem cells. I ended up actually doing a PRF, so
Mm-hmm.
platelet rich
Right.
fibrinogen injections in my scalp. And like, I mean, everything I could do to get my hair to grow back. And so, but GHK copper came up a lot too when it came to hair growth. So interesting. Um, this OS1 peptide, obviously it's applied topically. Are there things we can do? You just mentioned like it depends on the size of the molecule, how well it penetrates the skin. Are there things you can do to the skin to make it absorb it better, like prepare the skin?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing, and it's one of the products that we launched, but obviously cleansing your skin and making sure that you are removing impurities, and your skin is fresher and more receptible to the cream and the peptide. That definitely helps. Our specific cleanser, we call it Prep. We can. Um, we have done studies in the lab that shows that it more than doubles the penetration of the peptide if we use the cleanser first. But in general, cleanse your skin is obviously a very important step. And the other one would be things like microneedling that can make your skin even more open. If you break your skin barrier a little bit, again, there are pros and cons, but for if you don't do once in a while, can help the penetration of peptides and other molecules that are in a larger size.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. That totally makes sense. Is this something you use once a day, more than once a day? Think I've always found the most annoying part about whatever skincare regimen it is that there's like 7 steps.
Uh,
And I'm a busy woman. I've got kids. I mean, I'm like, what's the 5-minute routine?
that's
So
my routine.
what's the routine if you're using this OS1 peptide? Is it
Yeah,
one and done? Is it
yeah.
one and done? Please tell me
Uh,
it's one and done.
exactly. And I mean, that's why we developed this product. We do believe that less is more. I think if we crack the code of what you need to deliver to the skin to make the skin healthy and, function like a younger skin, you don't need like 7 steps. So like, I honestly, I use the cleanser and only at night apply the OS1 face. We do have an amazing eye product right now because as we were studying the skin in different parts of our body, we realized that the skin around your eye is obviously thinner, but it ages much faster. There's
Oh,
data showing that the skin under eye or above your eyes, it's around 20 to 30 years older than just the skin around your temple
wow.
and cheeks. Yeah. So knowing that, we did develop a specific formulation for the eye area. We tested in eyelid skins. It's a higher concentration of the peptide, and people are seeing amazing results. We just got the clinical data back. The clinical data shows improvement in elasticity, firmness, hydration. It's really powerful. But yeah, that's my routine. Like a cleanser, a moisturizer, and an eye product, and I'm done. And next day it's I don't cleanse it again. I just apply the moisturizer and the eye product and then sunscreen on top. And it's 5 minutes. If it's more than that, I'm too tired.
Okay.
I
I
want to go
got,
to bed or I need to go to work. Yeah, that's
yeah. I mean, I got a lot of things to do to start my day and end my day. And like having a 7-step skincare routine is like, I mean, I do, I want great skin, right? But it's like, oh my gosh, like, do we really need this many steps? Well, we're going to move to the last part of the podcast here called the Semen Analysis, and I pulled, of course, one of the studies that was done on OS1, this peptide 14, and this is, of course, this senotherapeutic. So basically, it targets cellular senescence. This they put out in 2022, so just last year. So I just want to highlight for all of you that these senotherapeutic compounds are molecules that reduce cellular senescence or zombie cells by either suppressing the cellular state or selectively eliminating them. And there's so much in the longevity world, you guys, there's so much regarding the role of these senescent cells with aging and in all diseases. So we're talking about skin, on this, but there's a very fast growing interest in looking at other disorders, the way your liver works, the way your kidneys work, muscle, sarcopenia. We've talked about that a lot. Cataracts in the eyes, your blood system, heart disease and atherosclerosis, and your joints. Basically, you have senescent cells everywhere. After I think I read a study just recently that like after the age of 38, the rate of senescent cells or zombie cells starts to really increase because humans based on our DNA really weren't supposed to live past about age 38. But, modern technology has gotten so good at extending our lifespan that now we're living years and years and years of our life with these senescent cells. And so the clinical evidence of these xenotherapeutics in humans is still new, but I think it's a really exciting approach that we can start to look at, kind of bridging this gap between basic science and the clinical applications of these things. So this OS1 peptide, you guys, it can reverse the biological age. How much is it, Carolina? Like 2.5 years after how many days of use?
So this we showed this reduction of 2.5 years in the skins that we treat in the lab in 5 days. So it's a different kind
Wow.
of it's a different kind of condition, and obviously very controlled experiment. That's why we are running now in humans to know how long it takes in humans. So we are testing for 6 months. We believe that in 6 months we can already see a significant result in reversing the biological age. But you obviously see benefits into your skin earlier than that. So from our clinical data, we see significant improvements after 6 and 12 weeks. It gets better over time. But people can see, improvement in texture, in softness, hydration much earlier, like in the first few weeks already. So it varies depending your skin type, but clinical data shows significant data after 6 and 12 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the lab.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if it's 2.5 years and then I just keep using it, I mean, eventually here I'm going to look 21, right? That's what I'm banking on.
I, I think we don't want to look 21 again, right? We just want to look like really vibrant. We want to look in the mirror and feel good. So our goal is definitely to be able to help people to feel good about their skin. And it's not that we are gonna completely, eliminate every single wrinkle, but your skin will be healthier. Your skin will be functioning well. Uh, and yes, it will look younger too. This is a consequence of addressing aging at the root cause.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I'm going to live to be 100, but I always want to look half my age. That's just my goal, whatever it is,
Yeah,
half my
and I
age.
mean, yeah, if you can freeze you right here, it looks amazing, right?
Oh. Well, this has been so wonderful, Carolina. Can you tell people how they can find OneSkin, how they can find the research and follow along and with what you and your colleagues are doing? It's amazing pioneer work for aging.
Yes. So you can find us on oneskin.co, our website. I really suggest everyone to subscribe to our newsletter. We share a lot of content around skin health and longevity. We share the behind the scenes of how we develop our products, all the data that we generate in every day in the lab. We have a team of 6 PhDs that are working on OneSkin, and we continue to evolve the science and develop new products. But also, we bring a lot of educational content that's really helpful overall. And you can also find us on Instagram at oneskin.co. And I think that's mainly it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this was so lovely. Thank you all for listening and share this information with anybody that you think would find it helpful. We depend on each and every one of you to spread these messages around the world. We'll catch you on the next episode. Did you guys love that last episode of the Fit and Fabulous podcast? Well, of course you did. And I want to keep bringing you the most amazing content from the most incredible people. And you can help me by subscribing to the Dr. Fit and Fabulous channel. You guys know where the button is. Just click it. It's the doctor's orders.